Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. So in this series we follow opening principles, mid-game strategies and the endgame strategies. Today I wanted to talk about some endgames again. Today I'll talk about an important topic in the endgame, and it's the so-called fortress in the endgame. The fortress is a setup which you should sometimes apply when everything went wrong, when you don't have any winning chances, when you basically are trying to get a draw. It's good sometimes to build this so-called fortress. While playing the fortress setup of pieces, you should be familiar with the main principles of the fortress. The fortress, first of all, in the fortress, you should create this immobile pawn structure. So it means you're not allowed to allow your opponent to create some dynamic pawn structures, some pass pawn situations, because you see, when we have pass pawns, then you could get deflected by your own pieces in order to prevent your opponent from promotion, and that's why we should really have a certain staticity in the game. So the other important thing while building a fortress, well, it's like in the war. When you're building maybe a fortress, you should this fortress should be really compact. So it means you should have a really good connection between your pieces, because if you get loose, if the position gets loose, sometimes your opponent can attack your king and try some discovered attacks, double attacks, and many of these tactical possibilities. When you have a compact position, that's not possible. We are creating really certain statics in the game, and that's really important to remember while playing on this fortress strategy in the endgame. One of the most important things is that you should really restrict your opponent's king's ability to play, because in the end game, the king is evaluated as a piece, not something that you have defend. So the king is basically an active piece. So that's why you should really restrict your opponent's king's ability to play, because if your opponent has only the queen on the board, well, he needs the help of the king, and when he gets it, then it can be really dangerous. When you restrict your opponent's king's ability to play, then sometimes it's not possible. So you see this example. Now here we have a rook versus a queen endgame, and here both of the sides have only one pawn on the board. You see, with this rook on g3, we have created a fortress against the potential g3 move by the pawn. We have also restricted the king's ability to play, because the king cannot come onto this third rank, and basically the queen alone is here helpless, although black is up the material but cannot win the game. Let's see the continuation. Queen on e4 was played here. King on h2. We can white can try queen on f4, but again we're doing these perpetual moves with the king. So you see, black cannot infiltrate in the position anyhow, and now we're playing simple, as I said, perpetual moves, and here there's no way that black will win this game. So you see, we have created now all of these elements: the restriction of the king, the mobile pawn structures, good connection between pieces, because you see the king is protecting the rook, the pawn is protecting the rook, the king is protecting the pawn. So we are really compact here. There's no way that black will infiltrate in this position anyhow. So let's see now, very tricky fortress that was played by black. It was a game played by Arshak Petrosyan against Laszlo Hajai. Laszlo Hajai here with the black pieces, and he played a very interesting fortress idea, because white has the advantage here in the game, and in order to open the position here, b6 is possible. So that's why here black tried a blockade, fortress blockade, with the move queen on b6, so sacrificing the queen in order to get this static pawn structures. Here knight on b6, we have c takes b6, and now you see white tried the move h4 in order to open somehow the position, but here simple b takes a4, and now queen on d7 was queen on d2 was played, and now simple h3. Here after g takes h3, now we have h4, and here really it's a compact position. There's no way that white can infiltrate into position, because we have now really blocked and static pawn structure. You see no movement of the pawns is possible. Basically, the only way to open the position is maybe play queen on g2 and then sacrificing the queen back for the bishop, but of course then it's losing game for white. So you see black found a very nice fortress motif with the queen sacrifice and managed to get a draw. Maybe in a slightly weaker position find this very nice tactical motif. So let's see now another example. Here you see we have white is up the exchange. White has the queen for the rook and the bishop. It's a game played by Vladimir Kramnik against Wang Hao. Wang Hao plays now a very important move, rook on e6, and this is this compact position that I talked about. You see now this pawn is protecting the rook. The rook is protecting this pawn on b6, and this pawn is protecting this pawn on a5. Okay, still we have a mobile pawn structure, but you see when maybe something like 8 takes g6, then 8 takes g6, still it's even a more simplified position. So what we are not allowing here is white to get some kind of activity. We want to continue with this compact position, so it's you shouldn't play here too much with your bishop. Maybe go here on d2 on similar ideas, because then you lose the connection of pieces. Let's see how Wang Hao managed to get a draw here. Here queen on d5 was played, king on g7, f4. Here we have now g takes h5. Here queen on g5, but now rook on g6, the same idea, cutting off now the 6th rank. There's no way that the king will infiltrate in the position here with the king, because the rook is very well placed on this 6th rank. And the more important thing is that we can also play this rook on d6, because if white tries something like f5, because then the rook can be connected with this bishop still on the 6th rank, and still we can continue to build our fortress. Here queen on h5, h6, queen on e5 was played, king on g8. You see now black is doing these perpetual moves, which are also important in the fortress build up. Here queen on d5, king on d6, rook on d6, pardon me, queen on b5, and now rook on e6, f5. We have rook on d6, king on e4, bishop on g7. You see now we're preventing this f6 move, and I hope you realize that white cannot win this game because of this very good connection of pieces. Because you can try some checks, but it's not a problem. Again, we play something like queen bishop on f8, and again we are not allowing, as I said, our opponent to somehow infiltrate with the king in the attack. So let's see now another example. It was a game played by Boris Gelfand against Vishwanathan Anand in the World Championship match 2012. Here Gelfand found tactical motif, which seemed that is completely winning, but then Vishwanathan Anand found this fortress motif here. Boris Gelfand played the move c5, opening the d file because of some discovered check possibilities by the bishop. We have b takes c5, d takes c5, and rook takes on c5, and now bishop on h7, king takes queen, rook takes queen on d6, but now rook on c1, and now rook on d1. We have rook on c8, h3. Now knight on e5, queen on e2. Here knight on g6, bishop takes on f6, g takes f6, rook takes on c1, and now king on h2. And you see now again Vishwanathan Anand will build the fortress. First of all, we are defending. Basically, we are hoping for a draw here. You cannot win this game. If your opponent makes a decisive mistake, of course, you can win the game. But basically, we're battling for a draw here. And here, rook on c7, perfectly fine. Building up this connection of pieces, because in the continuation, we can try something like maybe rook on e7, getting a connection between this knight and the rook, and then play freely with our king, doing perpetual moves, rook on king on g7, king on f8, and maybe try also some blocking systems with f5, creating an even more compact position of pawns, more compact pawn structures. Queen on b2 was played, you see, king on g7. Now a4, knight on e7 was played, a5, knight on d5. This knight is now very well placed on this square on d5. It's basically hard to challenge this knight anymore. Basically, the only thing that white can hope for is somehow to open the position with his pawns. So a6 here, king on h7, queen on d4. You see now this knight is protecting this f6, also protecting this rook on c7, just playing with the king, and the game ended in a draw. So let's see now another example. Here it's a game played by Gata Kamsky against Valery Salov. Here bishop on d8 was played in the last move by white, and here bishop takes on d8, rook takes on d8, and here black found a very nice motif. First of all, black took here rook takes on b3. After queen takes on b3, queen on e4. Of course, black is down the exchange, but we'll try now to build a fortress, because we have now also a tempo on the pawn. Here queen on g3 was played. Now simply pushing forward, a5, queen on h4. We have knight on h7, queen on f2, a4, rook on c8, queen takes on c4, and you see now rook takes on c5, queen on e4. Still we are hoping to get this fortress here, creating first this immobile pawn structures, because we want to have this staticity in the game. After f takes g5, now h4, very important move, because it prevents some g4 ideas. Queen on f3 was played. Now queen on d4, queen on g4, and now very nice move, queen takes on g4. After a takes g4, you see now we have triple pawns here on the g file, and they are not mobile, so it will be hard for white to find some dynamics in this game. Knight takes on g5 was played, rook takes on a4, but now knight on h7 again, king on h3. Now knight on f8, rook on e4, knight on g6, and now you see black has built again this fortress, again a good connection. So you see pawn is protecting this knight, knight is protecting pawn, pawn is protecting this pawn on e6. Here the king is also very well placed, defending all of these pieces. So this is a very, very nice fortress, and as I said, the game ended in a draw. So I hope you realize this idea. Sometimes when something went wrong, so if you maybe down the exchange, if you're if your opponent has a huge activity, sometimes it's okay to go and build this fortress, because you see it's sometimes even hard to win a game up the exchange. We saw in this example with this queen and the rook, there's no way that the queen could beat this rook in this very, very static endgame. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and meanwhile you can watch my other basics in chess videos with some other opening principles, middle game strategies, and the end game strategies. And you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen in a chess game. And you can also watch my how to spot chess tactics videos, in which I show you an effective way how to realize tactical possibilities in a chess game. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.